Empty concert halls are a sign of the times. Seats devoid of men and women, boys and girls, and students and seniors conjure the image of a lonely place with untapped potential. Seemingly endless, unoccupied rows of seats may seem daunting and depressing, but a little historical perspective tethers us to the reality that times have, in fact, been harder. Three-quarters of a century before, in World War II, the glorious Victoria Concert Hall you see here was actually a makeshift hospital crammed with beds instead of chairs. The concert hall is also an office for many. Any empty workplace is a disquieting symbol of people unfulfilled, uninspired, and in some cases, unemployed. When it's safe again, concerts will resume. Institutions like the symphony orchestra are monuments to the importance of the arts, transcending pandemics and, yes, even war. Live music fuels the soul in countless ways: the energy of the crowd, the commitment of the onstage artists, and the spontaneity of the music making, unique with each performance. Miss it, and it's gone forever. The memory of full houses has us all eager to get back on stage and back on track. I'm John Fox, the principal percussionist of the Singapore Symphony Orchestra, and this week's guest is well acquainted with such full houses. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us from his home in Taiwan, the brilliant Benny Tseng. one of the great masterpieces for solo violin, written by one of the greatest composers ever known. Hello, Benny.
Hi, John. It's nice to see you here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Tell me a little bit about what you love about that piece or Bach in general.
So this is one of, for me, this is a signature piece of Bach because, sometimes you can play it at midnight and after a long practice, and it's just very soothing and comfortable to play. And sometimes I could play it as an encore as well. So I'm very comfortable with the piece, and well, Bach in general is he's just one of the greatest composer, and his fugue, and it's just incredible to play, and also incredibly hard in counterpoint and harmony. So
I think
yeah.
this says a lot about you, Benny, because you play such virtuosic repertoire and you play such a huge range of it. To hear you talk about the complexities and how challenging and difficult Bach is, I think that says a lot about your musicianship. But listen, thanks for taking the time here today, because I understand that you're quite busy this week with driver's education classes. Is that right?
Actually, yes. I just started yesterday, actually, with my first driving lesson. Yeah, I'm a rookie for that.
I wonder about the rookie thing, because
Hmm.
do you feel like you've ever missed out on stuff that maybe a lot of people have experienced because your career was launched in essence around 6 years old?
Well, when I was a kid, I didn't really feel like I was missing out on anything. But maybe when I grew older, I feel like for things like basketball is something that I think most violinists would avoid. Um, and maybe later on, I thought about it. I probably spent some time practicing while other kids are hanging out and playing with their friends when they were very young. Um, but I feel like I'm not missing out that much because I do play other things. Like sometimes I play computer games and sometimes like ping pong. And we even used to have a ping pong table at Curtis. So that's one of the places I hang out with my friends.
Well, how early did this obsession with violin start? I mean, were you a prodigy and from day one?
No, my parents did not really meant to make me learn violin at first. Actually, I started with piano actually when I was like 4 years old or something like that. But it was in my kindergarten um, when my teacher told my parents that I sing the Happy Birthday song a little bit different from the other kids, and they told my parents that I would sing the first melody 4 times, and I would just repeat it, and they try to teach me how to sing it correctly with different tunes each time, but I don't know if I couldn't understand um, the melody at that time, or was it I don't know what it was, but I just could not sing it. And then my parents was very worried, so they bought this CD of Happy Birthday song, and they would just replay it over and over when I sleep every night. But after a month or so, I was still not able to sing the Happy Birthday song like correctly. So they were, even more worried. And at that time, my cousin was playing the violin. So my parents brought me to my first Suzuki teacher, and so that was my first lesson of violin. And I think around maybe a month or so after I started the violin, they found out that I have perfect pitch. And then after that, when they asked me to sing the Happy Birthday song, I was able to sing it just like everyone else. So I don't really know if it was the violin that kind of helped me, or it was just I think one of the encounter that I never expected in my life, actually.
So once you picked up the violin, was practicing a breeze? You just loved practicing all the time?
Well, I think for all the kids, it's not a genuine thing to just love practice. So my first teacher in Suzuki, he was very encouraging, and he would give us like stickers or candies. I don't know. I was satisfied at that time. I don't. For the kids now, probably probably not so easy. But
Where are you here?
if you count from the right side, the third one. So the
In
you
front
could
there.
say the shortest guy there. But yeah, that was my first year playing the violin. So in Suzuki teaching, they would put you in a group with other kids as parents, and then usually the material is some folk songs or some very famous tunes, and then after learning each pieces, my teacher would give me some stickers or whatever, and then I would be very happy to to practice. And then also, well, my dad, he knows that I love like watching pool and playing pool, so he would encourage me and saying that, oh Benny, if you practice 15 or 20 minutes, then I'll play pool with you for 30 minutes, something like that. And then I would be tricked.
You can barely reach over the top of that thing, Benny.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
And I guess my other question to you is, were you smiling and so happy when you were playing violin?
Oh, I think you mean in this photo, or
Yeah.
I think in that photo I was just trying to lean forward, so my face was a little like, yeah.
You were bribed to practice.
Yes, I was totally bribed into practicing. Now I think of it, I think that was very smart for my parents to kind of get, and my teacher to get me into, learning violin and playing and practicing, not thinking that it's something that's boring or hard to do. Because I think for violin, when you start, you don't you don't produce a very good, a nice sound at first. So it takes some time to learn how to hold the bow and how to hold the violin, and then gradually you start from scratches and gradually to making a good sound. So I think it takes a little more time to get the kids start to like the instrument.
Do you learn any skills like that you're describing from something like Suzuki?
So actually, yeah, I could demonstrate. This is one of the things that our teacher, um, it was like small game exercise thing that our teacher gave us. So we used to call it the crab walk, because you hold your bow instead of normally like this. You hold the bow like that, and then with your thumb and your index finger, and then you move like this.
Oh, that's
And all the way
terrific.
to the tip, and then you would then raise backwards all the way back to the frog, and then our teacher would um, make this into like a small competition kind of thing, and then whoever goes the fastest would get some little little prizes, and then that makes um, the process of learning violin much more interesting.
I've always imagined that Suzuki method would be rather restrictive because you need to be conformist with the others. I mean, Did you find it that way?
Actually, I found it more fun because when you learn violin, when you start violin, with your friends and everybody takes the class together every week, and it feels like um, it's not alone because when we take private lessons later on, it's much more about individual progress and trying to improve, and the teacher will give you more comments on your playing. But as the for the Suzuki method, I think it's really to build up the interest, and then for me, it was very fun to learn with other friends, and and it feels even better to play together as a team.
Oh, I see. So it was maybe the opposite, more of a stepping stone for you, because at 6 years old, you're already soloing with the Taipei Symphony Orchestra. Now, for comparison, Benny, at 6 years old, I was playing to an audience of one, me drumming for myself in my basement in America. So that's
Wow.
the difference between us.
Oh, wow, that's so cute.
But talk about this solo experience with a Taipei Symphony at 6.
Well, so that was the first time for me to be on a big stage, um, playing with an orchestra. And at that time, I don't even remember the feeling of being nervous. It was just like, okay, I'm playing, and then then I'm on stage, and then um, uh, I think from my memory, when I went off the stage, um, my teacher and my parents asked me if I was nervous, and I was just like, no, I just I just played. But later on, it became more of a thing that you want to play well and you want to sound good on stage. And if you made mistakes, then you feel a little frustrated. But back then, it was so natural, and then it was quite an experience.
So far, everything we've discussed about you is sort of an early Taiwan period. So before we leave your home country, maybe you could play us something that's literally close to home for you. Let's enjoy a little bit of folk music from Taiwan, courtesy of Benny. beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit about that piece and why it's special for you?
Yeah, so this is probably one of the most famous folk song in Taiwan, and I've heard this way back when I was a kid, and my grandparents they loved this song because um, while I was learning the violin, sometimes I go back and visit them, and sometimes I would play something for them. And it's funny because when I play other classical tunes and pieces, they would probably not react much or probably fall asleep or something like that. But as soon as I play this, they're like, oh, this is so good, and they enjoy it so much because this is in their memory. And so from then I start to realize that um, such music is very special, and the piece is about a young woman who is longing for love, and the Chinese pronunciation would be Wang Chunfeng, and that would directly translate into this spring breeze, I think. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it.
Poetic, just like the Chinese language. There's so many layers of meaning to everything. I think, unlike English, if we're singing about the breeze, it's probably blowing in some funny smell or something for us, but it has a lot more depth there. So, Taiwan, you did get out of Taiwan at 11 years old. This blows my mind. You're at the Menuhin competition at 11 years
Yes.
old and a prize winner as well. Was that something you really wanted to do? Was it your teacher? How did that even happen?
So the Menuhin competition was the first time that I went out of Taiwan, and just like started to learn the violin, I was not really thinking about I'm doing a competition, and it was more about having fun because that I think that time it was in France and for the Menuhin competition, and then for me everything is new, taking an airplane and seeing a lot of people of different color, and it was just something that's fun. And then I was consistently exposed to new things at that time in that trip. And my teacher even told me that are you here for a trip or a competition? You should be way more nervous and practicing more. But I was just experiencing new things and not really being nervous. So that was also a great experience for me.
Your teacher is telling you that you should be more stressed and practicing more. I mean, do you or don't you have it just naturally in your blood to compete?
Um, no, I think I realized about that a little later, like maybe when I was like 15 or 16. And then you start to realize that, okay, I'm doing a competition and you want to succeed in it. And, then the feeling is a little different. Like I start to feel nervous and such. And then, but at the same time, I probably was more serious about the competition, and then I probably did better later on. But I don't know, there was this, when I was younger, the feeling was just really natural. And then you don't worry about anything. That's the I think the greatest thing that um, I or the memory that I cherish from childhood.
So then, do you think there are clear positives and negatives about the competitive experience?
I think the positive side is that um, I'm able to practice certain repertoire for a period of time for 3 months or 6 months, and then you can really work hard into make improving yourself on the repertoire, and that is something that you don't gain from everyday practice because you wouldn't have the feeling that you are playing for something important. So that's one of the good way I think to improve. And as for the negative side, I think if I did too many competitions, I start to feel that I'm limited of being creative, and I mean in like musically making, and then your style, and because you're consistently worried about how to win and how to do well, and then you try to be more conservative with your playing, and you feel like you have to not make too many mistakes. But I think the real difference in a performance and a competition is the risk of making mistake, because and this was something that um, my teacher at Curtis kept telling me, that you have to first of all be able to risk making mistakes, to make the music come alive. And this is one of the things that was a little more difficult while you're in a competition.
Sounds like Curtis was a huge thing in your life. You've already mentioned it a few times.
Yeah, well, I was there for 8 years, and I went there since I was 13, and I used to only go for private lesson in Taiwan every week, and I did not learn about solfege and counterpoint and music history until I um, got to Curtis. And also, you play chamber music, and you play in orchestra with all your colleagues, and it was just a fantastic experience for me, to learn and to know more about classical music. And both of my teachers, Ida Kavafian and Rosand, helped me so much in improving my playing, and performing, because Ida, she's such a sweet teacher, and then she cares about her students so much, and then at the same time she taught me a lot about different composers' styles, and then realizing how to interpret different music appropriately. And that was something that really blew my mind, because I at first I was just practicing, and then playing, and then it all of a sudden you start to be you're exposed to much bigger picture of music, and you start to learn about different styles, and I think that was really really amazing for me. And with Mr. Rosand, um, he really helped me a lot in terms of developing my own style of playing, and then trying to be personal, but yet not you know against the will of the composer. Yeah, and then I think after learning with him, I was able to come up with my my own fingerings or bowings.
So then, do you have your own process for instance, learning competition works?
Um, well, I think for me it's quite the same, the way I prepare for a competition and a performance, because in the later stages, after I start to realize about what is important and to gain from a competition, is not about just winning or not. It's more about the experience of or the preparation that you put into that, that makes um, you a better player. Um, so when I practice a piece, usually I would just try to play it through, and then if there are places that I don't really understand, maybe I will check out a recording of it, and then you start to look into the score. I think the process of learning is quite similar to everyone else, but for me the difference is that sometimes I would um, record myself after, let's say, 2 weeks working into this repertoire, into this piece, and then see how am I doing, and then maybe after another 2 weeks I would record again, something like that, and this helps me to keep track of um, what I feel that I need to change. Maybe I could add another rubato here, or maybe I should make the dynamics more noticeable, or I should play with more articulation.
Now, let's see if you still have that competition rep in your fingers. It would be great if you could play us a little Paganini, Benny. That right there is more arpeggios than I think I've played my whole life. And it makes me wonder, how do you keep your chops up with your crazy schedule?
Well, I try my best, but I don't think I'm the most disciplined person, because sometimes I do miss practice of a day or two if I'm on a trip or trying to relax. But as soon as I know about a concert date, I would try to make myself planned ahead, and then try to prepare according to the plans. And that helped me a lot, because after I finished with Tchaikovsky competition, there was a time that I was quite overwhelmed with different repertoire. Sometimes it could be 4 concertos and a recital in a month, something like that. And that was really hard at one point, because when you don't plan ahead, then this can really get tightened up, and then it reflects on the stage, because when you're very prepared, even though if you made one mistake, then that you have the rest, just in your muscle, in your memory, so you don't worry about it too much. But if you know that you're maybe just 60-70% prepared, then the one mistake can roll into much bigger thing. So I think it's an experience to learn, and then I definitely feel like now I'm getting more used to it, and then I can prepare it better.
Okay, so let's zoom in on those few days here and there where you're not practicing and on tour.
Mm-hmm.
Are you exploring the town? Are you sleeping it off? Are you finding cool places to eat? What are you doing?
Yes, I when I toured in different countries, I love exploring different food, and that's one of my favorite thing to do when I tour. Also, when I'm not touring, I rest a lot, and sometimes I like to cook myself because it's for me a very relaxing thing to do. Besides not practicing, so and you spend well, I spent um, maybe half of the day and just to get the ingredients, find the recipe, and trying to cook myself for my friends, and it's quite um, comforting for me.
Benny, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so I made this when I was in New York. It was scallops with some asparagus and a mashed potato with some bacon and chives. This was a recipe I found online, and I spent some time buying the ingredients and trying out. And actually, I even bought an iron skillet just to cook the scallops, because you know how the scallops would cook for too long, and it gets all watery in the fry pan. So I bought the iron skillet just to cook the scallops in a very high temperature. So that's how I made the sear of that uh, the scallop.
So this is relaxing for you, huh? Because if you gave me
Yeah.
scallops to sear, I think the searing is happening in my brain. There would be smoke coming out of my ears. I would be so stressed. But this is a place to chill for you in the kitchen, huh?
I think it's fun. But out of everything about cooking, I do not enjoy washing dishes. That's the one thing that that I don't like so much. But the rest, it's very relaxing for me. And it usually would take half a day or something to do everything, and then it would be like, oh, you know, nice, relax.
Well, after seeing that amazing photo of the dinner you prepared, I think dessert is in order. It would be tough to top that Paganini, but if you'd be willing to play us a little encore tonight, that would be awesome.
Sure.
But first, let me just thank you for joining us here
Oh.
today, because it's so rare to see this sort of bigger than life personality that comes on and off the stage playing a concerto that has a life beyond and is just a wonderful human being. That's very cool. So thanks for spending the time today.
Thank you so much for inviting me here, John. And it's been wonderful talking with you. So for the last piece, I'll play this solo piece by Chrysler, Recitativo on Scherzo Caprice. Hope you enjoy it.
Benny, come back and see us again soon. Cook up a good storm on stage. For those of you out there in the audience, we are wishing everyone a good evening. See you on stage.